The Apple Watch breaks records, but we're not sure which ones. Hotel rooms cannot lock you inside with ransomware yet. And who wants to chat with me after I die? All that and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and once again, time for Twit's audience survey. We'd really like to hear from you. It's only going to take a couple of minutes, really. That's all. Just go to twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. Your anonymous feedback will help us make Twit even better. And thanks for your continued support.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1695, recorded Tuesday, January 31st, 2017.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Grasshopper. Stay connected and run your business from your mobile phone with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, visit trygrasshopper.com/twit.
And by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit epson.com/EcoTank to find out more.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we tell you what you need to know about technology. I'm Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell. We tell you all you need to know about technology.
We don't tell anyone else.
Nope.
Just you.
This is a podcast for you and you alone.
Just
Welcome.
between you and us.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's like we're talking and then there's one more person in the room. Mm-hmm. We're like, sure, why don't you talk and not say anything because you're just listening to us.
Yeah, and that's you.
It's kind of weird.
Oh, and there's Kara.
Okay, everybody else in the studio. Okay, fine. There's more than just you, all right? The illusion is shattered. Mm-hmm. Hey, let's talk about Apple.
Yes.
Apple reported its earnings for its first quarter of 2017 and set a new record for sales of its iPhone, with 78.3 million sold for the quarter. Apple also set revenue records for, just basically iPhone services, Mac, and Apple Watch all together. That's according to a letter written to its investors from Apple. With $78.4 billion in revenue for the quarter, Apple continues its trend of increasing revenue when compared to the same time year over year. So it's $78.4 billion this year, $76 billion this time last year. Before that, $75 billion. Before that, $58 billion. Before that, $55 billion. So anyone that says that Apple, man, there's a lot to worry about Apple, I don't know. I just kind of don't buy it. I think Apple's doing all right.
Mm-hmm. Buy it.
Exactly.
But then that pesky Apple Watch, they still didn't split that out.
That's true. They haven't split that out. Mm-hmm. And you would think that they would if it was moving enough units. I mean, people would love to know. We would love to know that it's doing, it's doing excellent sales, and also would love to know the amount of that. And I think Apple breaks that out when it's a great number to reveal. And they still aren't. It's still part of the other category: TV, watch, Beats, iPod, accessories, and that whole category as a whole is down 8% year over year.
Right, but then you're still saying the Apple Watch broke records.
Yep. And we're really big fans of the Apple Watch, and it's breaking records. We just have no figures to compare it to. So I don't know. That's a hard one to get too excited about if you've got nothing to compare it against. Even if they only ever sold 3 of them, and this time they sold 8, that would still be breaking their record of selling Apple Watch.
Yes. iPad, not doing so great. That 13 million versus 16.12 million last year. 13 million iPads is nothing to sneeze at, but they would like to probably see that go up and not down.
Yeah, I mean, comparing it to last year, I guess it's kind of a little unfair, only from the sense that there was a new iPad at this time last year, right? Mm-hmm. They had just rolled out a new model, and we didn't really have one this time, so there was no new model to kind of spur those sales and kind of move things along. Yeah,
well, the Baby Pro came out in the spring, I think, so it wasn't. But then the giant iPad Pro was what you would consider new, I guess. Yeah.
Right. I mean, they had a new model towards the end of last year, so I mean, there was more reason for consumers to decide that they needed to buy it, and that, of course, lifts up the category.
Mm-hmm. And Tim Cook said that lots of people are choosing Macs for the first time. He says people have been switching to iPhone from another device. That's the highest it's ever been.
Thank you, Samsung. I have to imagine. I don't know, it's just a guess, but thank you very much, Samsung, for your Note 7 thing.
Exactly. Yeah, he didn't
say that. But.
No, he didn't. But.
I'm sure he was thinking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good time all around for Apple.
And as you pointed out in your notes, I'm going to cheat and read your notes.
Do
that
it.
The lack of the headphone jack did not seem to affect
Apparently
anything.
not.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently it didn't affect anybody. Everybody, myself included, kind of want the headphone jack to not go anywhere. But I mean, when you do that, when you make this huge change to a device and then it still breaks records, you have to imagine that, this is Apple, to some degree at least, Apple knew what it was doing, or at least what it could get away with doing. Mm-hmm. And it didn't really seem to affect things.
Yeah, I still do the Pixel, we're switching, if you haven't heard, and I have your Pixel, and it has an auxiliary jack, and I use it. I do.
The headphone jack?
Yeah.
And you're happy that you don't have the dongle, or have to remember the dongle?
I'm happy that I don't have to worry. It's like dongle anxiety is just lifted off me. It's a real
I know
thing.
It's just back to being liberated with your headphones. That's all.
Don't
laugh
that's
all you
my
need.
Dongle anxiety. It's real.
True. Dongle anxiety is true. It's a real thing, and it exists, and it's not fun. I've found myself without a dongle, and I was very anxious. But then you gave me the little keychain thing that you made, and so the dongle is always on my keychain. But that just means that I'm like reminded of dongle every time I pull out my keys.
Yeah.
It's like I've got a dongle dangling from my keys.
That dongle dangle. You got to look out for it. All right. Well, everyone was deleting Uber. The ride-hailing service inked a deal with Daimler, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz. Over the next few years, the German car maker will operate their own self-driving cars on Uber's ride-sharing network. So the cars will be built by Daimler. And the New York Times reports that this is not an exclusive deal. As for Uber, they say the partnership will get them to the future faster than going at it alone. So this is this is sort of exciting, but it's really just another deal in the self-driving car era. Of course, Uber had worked with Volvo in the past. That was their fleet of self-driving XC90s that were on the streets of San Francisco for about a minute before they got kicked out of there. But in this deal, Uber won't own the Mercedes. They'll just be on Uber's network. Mercedes?
Mercedes? I don't know.
Mercedes is probably the plural of
Mercedes. Mercedes-I.
Yeah, Mercedes-I.
Yeah.
And Travis Kalanick says making cars is really hard.
But yeah, that's true. I've never made a car, but I will take his word for it. And it seems like a lot of people are trying to get into this space, and they don't realize the depth and the breadth of that. I think this is actually a pretty great move, right? Not just for Uber, because it gives Uber access to a whole varied fleet of vehicles to kind of bring into the fold, and that's probably good for kind of consumer perception of the company, but also for companies that don't want to go it alone with their own, ramping up their own kind of platform, which I have to imagine is super complex, right? Uber already has their ride sharing, systems in place. They already know a lot about demand. They already know a lot about routing and everything like that. So they can kind of take a little bit of that pressure off of, Daimler, for example. And Daimler gets to benefit from that kind of advanced knowledge and knowing that their vehicles are put right to use in this area. When a company like Ford, on the other hand, is kind of going at it alone with its own ride-sharing kind of ambitions and platform and everything, just different levels of complexity. So this is a great option. I think Uber will probably have a lot of partnerships if they continue down this trend with keeping it open, which it seems like they are. Mm-hmm. Nintendo reportedly, reportedly about it. They reported quarterly earnings of $569 million in profit, which is a major improvement over last quarter's $57.1 million loss. So they really turned it around in a quarter. Nintendo credits Pokemon Sun and Moon for the 3DS for much of that movement, with $14.69 million in sales. And, by the way, Pokemon, I'm wearing Pokemon on my wrist. Mm-hmm. This is Pokemon Go. I'm not sure that Pokemon Go really played very much into this, other than kind of from a marketing and awareness standpoint for Pokemon Moon and the games for the 3DS. So that's good. Good news. Nintendo also revealed that Super Mario Run was downloaded 78 million times and saw a 5% conversion to the $10 paid version. We work out the math. That works out to around $53 million in revenue. So that's about what we know about Super Mario Run.
So all eyes are on the Switch now, of course. That
Yeah.
has to be, it has to be a profit driver. You can't, as they always say, put all your eggs in one Animal Crossing basket, because that's not even coming out. That's going to be delayed until April.
That's true. They're delaying that. Fire Emblem Heroes is still on track for February 2nd. Super Mario Run for Android coming out, I think, at the beginning of March. Switch is launching worldwide March 3rd, I believe, is the date for that. So this next quarter could be a really big one for Nintendo, and it'll be a big indicator as far as Nintendo's kind of new strategy, new platforms, kind of focusing more on the mobile side of things to see how that's really affecting the numbers. Will it have more of a meaningful add more of a meaningful difference to their earnings in the way that Super Mario Run, they probably expected that to do more than it actually did. We'll just have to wait and see. But Switch is going to be big, I think.
Yeah. Nintendo can also thank Donald Trump for these earnings because they got a bump from the higher dollar, which was after Trump's election. So in case you thought I could not include Donald Trump in a story about Nintendo, you would be wrong because
There
I
you
can.
go.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Megan.
Yesterday, I spread some fake news. I did. I'm coming clean about it. I said that ransomware had locked a hotel full of guests out of their rooms. Thanks to Denny for informing that this story wasn't strictly true. According to The Verge, the computers were attacked. The hotel patrons were neither locked in nor out of their rooms. Hotel staffs had some trouble programming new keys, but that was it. Also, if the card system is hacked, they have a backup system that's not connected to the network computers. Also, the idea that you'd be locked inside your room, like that doesn't really happen.
And if it does, really poor planning on the part of the people that own the hotel. Yeah. I mean, they basically said there's fail-safes to ensure that anyone doesn't get locked in or out permanently. You can think of a million reasons why they would be required by law, I would have to imagine, to have those fail-safes in place, a fire or any number of things that could happen. And, oh, I'm sorry, our digital lock system didn't work, so I guess you're going to have to stay in your room and die. Like, there are reasons that they would not allow for that to happen. But I do think it's funny that they're switching back to lock and key.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much of a hassle.
Right. Well, they paid the ransom of the ransomware. And so they were like, why don't we just use keys and we don't have to do that again? There are other ways to get around.
In fact, we've been using keys for a really, really long time.
Yes. So, yeah.
Before this.
Wouldn't it make an awesome science fiction movie if you were locked inside your hotel room? I mean, it'd be pretty great.
Kind of scary. I wouldn't want to go to a hotel with a digital lock system after watching that. Yeah,
exactly,
it'd be something like that.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Brian. You're now reading my mind.
Except that's like a robot peering its face through the crack in the door. Yes. I don't know if that's any more or less scary, but scary nonetheless.
More scary.
Yeah, probably
more.
True. The Nextbit Robin vowed to do things differently when it launched, partially on Kickstarter. It was partially funded on Kickstarter anyways, by offering virtually unlimited storage thanks to smart cloud storage mechanics of low priority files, as well as kind of looking a lot different from its competitors from a design standpoint in the smartphone world. Razer, which is the gaming company that you may remember made waves at this year's CES for its 3-screen gaming laptop design, announced that it has bought Nextbit, and all 30 team members are coming aboard, will now continue their work on Nextbit products as Razer employees. Nextbit co-founder Tom Moss will continue on as Nextbit CEO under Razer, though they do say that there's no follow-up to the Robin expected in the near term, and that their development isn't necessarily going to be gaming related. So it's really kind of confusing to understand like why Razer bought the Nextbit team. Like, do they have plans for a phone at some point? Is that the end game? I don't know.
Well, it would be awesome if it were like a phone for mobile gamers, because that's their thing. Gaming is their thing. Or maybe for cloud, like a cloud gaming, that's maybe what they would be getting into, because Nextbit was big on the cloud.
Right.
So maybe it's not a phone. It's just like, they figured out how to get everything in the cloud with your phone. Maybe this is some sort of gaming in the cloud sort of purchase. But I don't know. You liked the Robin, right?
I thought the Robin was cool. Ron Richards on All About Android, that is his phone of choice. He was so taken by the design and kind of the cloud functionality when we first saw it early last year that was his replacement. He was always into the Nexus devices prior to that. It looks different, has a very it's very alone in, on an island as far as its design is considered. It doesn't look like any other phone out there. Some people like it. Some people think it looks like a toy. Ron really liked it. I thought the design was neat. The cloud storage capabilities were nice. However, at the same time, it was kind of one of those things where it solved a problem that often we don't necessarily have as we live more and more in the cloud. Running out of storage space on our devices isn't as much of an issue as it used to be, especially also that now phones are shipping with a lot more kind of default storage, like 64 gigs or whatever. So, but it solved the problem well. It was definitely different, definitely forward thinking in that regard. But I was curious to see what they did next. If their original kind of differentiator was, well, we make it so that you have virtually unlimited storage on your device thanks to the cloud, what was their next thing? And I think they were working on something that had to do with battery, being able to offload batteries somehow. And I don't know how that would work, but that was kind of their next thing. So I guess it remains to be seen as to if they're going to continue that work at Razer or if Razer has entirely different plans for them going forward.
We will see.
We will.
I was promised that my Snapchat stories would disappear after a day, but our guest is here to tell us that in the future they could stick around to animate a chatbot even after we're dead. She will explain. Delightful. But first, let's take a minute to thank Grasshopper, the sponsor of this episode. Grasshopper is a virtual phone system designed for entrepreneurs. Grasshopper works just like a traditional phone system, but requires no hardware purchase. With their iOS and their Android app, callers can reach you wherever you are on your mobile phone. Grasshopper allows you to keep your existing number so you can maintain your brand. Then when you make a call, your client will see your Grasshopper caller ID instead of your personal phone number. Simply select a toll-free or a local number, record a custom greeting, and add multiple extensions for your business. Toll-free numbers are great for marketing, and they make your business sound more professional. Set up department and employee extensions with custom call forwarding to any phone in the whole wide world. You can get voicemails emailed to you as audio attachments. You can also send and receive SMS or text messages from your business number. Join the over 250,000 Grasshopper customers today. Plans start at just $12 a month. And you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Turn your smartphone into a business line with Grasshopper. And to save $50 on your order, go to trygrasshopper.com/twit. That's trygrasshopper.com/twit. And we thank Grasshopper for their support. So last week, we talked about a mannequin head that someone programmed to work with Amazon's Home Assistant. A viewer wrote in on Twitter that this would be a great way to stay connected to your family after they've passed on. And that's not creepy. Our guest today wrote about this growing field of death technology, and she's joining us to talk about it. Welcome, Adrienne Matei, a contributor at Quartz. So tell us a little bit about how these chatbots that are crafted from our digital data, how will we use them to bring back the dead?
So far this technology is kind of in a preliminary state. There has only been one person who's been brought back from the dead, so to speak, which is this man, Roman Mazurenko, by his best friend, Eugenia Cunha, who runs an AI company called Luca. So what she has done is gathered all of the data that Roman produced during his lifetime, all of the texts, the emails, the personal messages, and fed them through this artificial neural network, which is able to rearrange his sentence structure, his patterns of speech, and kind of predict how he might answer questions.
Wow. So for some of us, I think what we post on Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter isn't really the real us. That was my first concern with that. It's sort of what we, it's a different form of us. But the idea of using this later to, that would be what stuck around. I guess that is what's going to be sticking around now. But do you see any issues with people using that as the way to create a person?
Yeah, well, it's never really going to be the real us. The way that Eugenia actually described it, I thought was quite accurate. She said it's sort of like talking to a shadow of a person or almost talking to a therapist. And I do think that there are some complications that we run into when we think of like the version of ourselves we present on Twitter or on Facebook not necessarily being an accurate representation of who we are. So I think the more data that is fed into these systems, the more accurate it is going to be. Say if you wrote a book or if you have a lot of emails, personal messages might be a little bit more authentic. Also, there are some new programs that are being developed that are just bots that kind of work to encourage you to open up in a way that you would only do privately and may not on social media, to try to just document a better sense of who you really are. So all of that is there, saved somewhere in case your loved ones do want to do something with it when you die, but isn't necessarily made public during your lifetime.
So you're collecting all this information, which I mean is really how these AI systems work. The more you feed it, the more accurate it gets around, constructing, at least in this case, constructing the persona of the person that you're chatting with. How convincing did it end up being? I mean, is this one of those cases where it's like, yeah, you're still kind of chatting with a robot, or would it be capable of tricking even someone that knows them quite well?
Yeah, that's the Turing test question. I think that we're looking at these becoming much more authentic representations in the future. Somebody that I was interviewing was saying that, within the next decade, this technology is going to be a lot more convincing. As it is right now, it's still pretty good. Eugenia said that Roman's mother was quite impressed with the technology. So if a man's mother is going, wow, I'm still learning things about my son after he died through this piece of tech, I mean, that was something that kind of made me perk up and listen.
And is that more a case of this chatbot is good at having the right kind of like cadence, or you know what I mean, or kind of like talking in the or chatting in the same type of sentence structure that they're used to, or is it about actually understanding and knowing the history of that person to be able to kind of convey very personal elements back at them?
Yeah, I think that the neural networks are advancing to become a little bit better at really faking being a person. But as they are now, they have a sense of humor. They can be self-deprecating. They, can crack jokes. So they're not just really awkward, basic bots. They're pretty sophisticated, Yeah. It kind of makes me think, if sometimes you have a friendship where you only text every once in a while and you go for months or years kind of keeping in touch on a bit of a superficial level, you could really, have someone in your life for a long time after they passed away.
That's a really good point.
Not even know,
yeah.
Maybe. So your piece in Quartz is really about like the psychology of bringing people back from the dead, which is, is something that we might not be so far away from with all of the new technology that we have. But do you see, as you looked into these chatbots, do you see that did psychologists think that people would use this more as a crutch to avoid grieving, or was it something that people could really use to get through the grieving process?
Well, the grief counselor I spoke to made the really good point that emotional support isn't something we want to be outsourcing to bots. Our Western society has a bit of uncertainty around how to talk about death to begin with, and kind of distancing ourselves from our ability to connect with the bereaved it's just not good for humans. So I think that, worst case scenario, these could be used as a crutch or a way to isolate yourself when you're grieving. There's a lot of emotional responsibility kind of wrapped up with this piece of technology, but a kind of alternate perspective on it is that here's this piece of tech that's getting us talking about the dead and about grieving and about the things that we still want to say to people and about what was left unresolved and still feels really important to us. And those are all like messy, sensitive subjects that rarely, come up in polite conversation. People tiptoe around them. So if this kind of technology can get people opening up about, someone they still care about, just because they're dead doesn't really mean that they're gone. And I think this kind of reinforces that sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, you you think about people are often, they don't prepare for, you hear about people who don't prepare, they don't have any plan, they don't want to talk about what it's going to be like when they're dead because they don't want to think about it at all, and they leave their family, and it's unfortunate for their family often. And Facebook, of course, lets you turn your Facebook over to someone in the event of your death, and people don't always do that because they don't want to think about it. When I say people, I mean me. I don't want to think about it. I haven't done that. But So when you talked before about these kinds of ways you could have the chatbot and feed the chatbot information instead of it just taking your crazy Snapchats, you could be feeding it information that you'd want people to remember. So I guess what you're saying is we can really start thinking about how we want to be remembered as opposed to, and start talking about it with our family.
Yeah, some people do prepare a little bit by doing things like making a scrapbook or writing letters to their children to read after they've passed away. And this could be seen as a little bit more of a high-tech extension of that kind of a practice.
Yeah, I think one question that I have, and I don't know if you have the answer to this because it really sounds like this is just kind of evolving and kind of the ethics around it are kind of evolving right now, is the question of who decides when this happens, right? Is this a decision that a person makes before they pass away and they say, all right, these pieces of information are okay to go to so-and-so so that when I'm gone, this digital likeliness of me can be created in a chatbot? Or is this something that like a grieving spouse says, well, I've been given access to this when my spouse passed away and I'd really like to revisit him or her, so here you go. And does that kind of cross a line where someone that says, well, they can't speak because they're dead, but maybe someone would, if they were alive, choose not to do that when, in fact, it ends up happening once they pass away?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it's too early to say how this is going to work in practice if it becomes a little bit more mainstream. But privacy is such a big issue surrounding it. I mean, you don't want the wrong people to start learning the wrong tidbits about you after you die. I mean, It just seems like the plot to a bad horror film.
Yeah, I was thinking it sounds like the plot to Bridges of Madison County when they find their mom's diary and then they relive her life. So I think someone needs to do an update to that. Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a contributor to Quartz. Where else can people find your work?
I work at Nouveau Magazine, which is a Canadian lifestyle publication, and I also have work published on adriennemate.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Adrienne.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good night. All right. Henry from Livonia writes about our delete Uber discussion from yesterday. Henry writes, the problem with boycotts is it hurts the low-end employees the most. I have friends that drive Ubers. I have friends that work for Amazon or Costco. I don't want to see them out of work. And yeah, that's absolutely true. I think when a boycott happens, I have a feeling that the kind of mob mentality of this sort of thing concerns itself less with the greater effects, how far down it reaches, and more with just making a statement. And that ends up being the kind of knee-jerk reaction and something like that. And I'm not sure, for better or for worse, it needs to be, recognized that it does reach down further than just the corporation and affects a lot of the people that, could have their lives change significantly as a result of it. Yeah. All right, up next is a social network for kids. A good idea. We're going to talk a lot about that. But first, let's take a minute to thank Epson. They're the sponsor of this episode. The EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer does not use ink cartridges. Instead, it features just an awesome, innovative, refillable ink tank that is earning it the title of CES 2016's Innovation Awards honoree. So no more out-of-ink frustration. It actually includes, in the box, up to 2 years of ink. That's equal to 11,000 black pages or 8,500 color pages. So you're going to print all day and night. You're not even going to make a dent on that ink. You can save up to 80% on ink with low-cost replacement bottles. It's powered by Precision Core printing technology. It has auto two-sided printing, as well as a 30-page auto document feeder. And easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones, not always the easiest thing in the world with printers that I've used before. Here, Epson's done it right. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value. With Epson's EcoTank line of printers, you'll have the freedom to print without running out of ink. The Epson EcoTank system was actually named the 2016 Small Biz Windows Printer of the Year. Visit epson.com/ecotank today, and you can transform the way your home, your office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, you'll want to turn to the Epson EcoTank printers. That's epson.com/ecotank. And we thank Epson for their support. Epson, exceed your vision.
TNT's fan of the day is Ed Mann, who watches TNT while playing Shopkins with his little one.
Oh, Shopkins.
I don't know the Shopkins.
You don't know the Shopkins thing.
What are they? Little kind of plastic things?
They are little kind of plastic things. They come in seasons, so you can buy them individually in little blind bags, as they say. So it's a surprise which one you get, and they're basically like food items, or maybe it's like a blender or a pair of glasses or whatever with eyes and feet.
Oh.
And so the kids, they're like collectibles. It's kind of like Pokemon in the sense that you can collect them, and then if you have extra, you can trade with your friends. And I don't understand them, but my kids are nuts for them.
I was hoping that was
it.
just a thing you liked and not your kids.
What's that?
I was hoping it was you that loved the Shopkins.
I don't know I don't get them. I don't get it.
Shoppy style.
Yay!
I think that we make a great combination.
Yeah.
Shopkins and tech news. I think it's a thing.
Everybody gets what they
right,
want. You
yeah.
get the tech news, your kid gets the Shopkins on a table.
Yes.
And their imagination runs wild.
I also feel like what we're going to talk about is like a bag. You open it up and you have no idea what's going to be in the bag. Sometimes it's a hamburger with feet. Who knows?
And sometimes we trade you tech news stories for other tech news stories. Mm-hmm. When we have 2 Uber stories, we don't need 2 Uber stories, so we give you one.
Exactly.
And you give us a Twitter one.
Well, show us how you watch or listen to TNT, record a video, take a picture of your setup like Ed did in his beautiful living room. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. You can use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it.
This is kind of related. I have a good idea. How about a social network for kids under 13? Does that sound like a good idea?
Perfect.
Okay, so Lego is doing this, but they've removed many of the things that might give parents some pause when it comes to bringing kids into the social media world. It's called Lego Life. It's aimed at kids 13 and under, allows its pint-sized users to create Lego characters. You can animate them, move them all around. They can follow the ones they like most, so like, famous Lego characters, or the ones that you see now in the movies, like Batman, Wonder Woman characters, for example. You can post creations to the news feed, so there's a news feed for kids to kind of follow and see what other kids are creating, as well as maintain a profile. But they've taken away, so there is no ability to post real life pictures, so kids can't take pictures of any kind and post it to the service. And there's no real free-form commenting system. They have the ability to post like Lego emoji, but you can't get in there and type, and you can imagine why they would remove that.
Yeah, I can imagine why. But I mean, you can say a lot with emoji.
That's true.
But they've somehow taken away the combination of emojis that could be, I don't know, offensive to children somehow. I don't know how they do that. Certain combinations of emoji have been removed. I would like to know that.
I think they're like Lego inspired emoji. So it's not like the full emoji selection.
No middle finger emoji.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find that, or the steaming pile of poo. I don't think you're going to find that one.
Okay.
There are also pre-written things, like you can see here, pre-written comments. So even though there's no free-form commenting, there are ones that Lego puts in there that you could use.
I think we call those stickers, don't we?
Well, but there are also comments, actual word comments that you can select in lieu of actually writing something.
Right.
You could say, best car ever.
Right. Or you're fantastic, not meet me at the Starbucks or anything.
Right, yeah. Yeah, nothing like that. You can favorite, all that kind of stuff. So what do you think about...
Sorry, I had to go there.
Dang it. I tried to just whisk on by that one, too. What do you think, Megan?
I love it. I think it's fantastic. I love that they make up names. They're the randomly generated names. That's my favorite part, like Duke Charming Shrimp.
Or Chairman Wiley Dolphin. Yes. Duke Charming Shrimp is
I know, that's going to be a thing. Like, I wanted to join just so I would have a name like that. But then it's creepy for me to join.
But you don't want to join a 13 and under social network.
No,
Probably not a good idea. I think my one concern, and I don't know, tell me if this is unfounded, but I feel like what we're realizing now 10 years into the social media experiment that we started when we all got into Facebook, and before that MySpace and all that kind of stuff, is that technology companies are really good at providing technology in a way that makes you want to interact with it more and more. It's almost like this impulse that we have the more we use it. Is there any fear that this is kind of like conditioning for kids of, hey, why not come into the social media fold? We'll show you how you can get hooked on this social media habit. Here, you'll start here with Lego World.
Absolutely. Yeah, the grooming is what we call it.
I suppose so.
Sorry.
Segment.
Sorry.
I suppose you're right.
This is horrible.
I don't like
I'm
where this
sorry.
segment's going at all.
Sorry.
Brian?
I had a point. Whatever. This is not funny.
See, I don't know how I feel about that.
Well,
I mean, and because I also see it in games, right? Like there are a lot of mobile games that really act on the same impulse that you get when you go gambling, right? Where you play it and you win these prizes, and there's the impulse to buy more so that you can win more and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, the same discussion comes up in those kind of games. Like, do you let your kid play Bejeweled? And there's this this kind of like the same aspect of humans that is really enticing about gambling is kind of tickled in a certain way when you play games like Bejeweled,
right.
And that kind of reward behavior.
Yes.
And so when kids play that, you wonder if you're like conditioning them for that to a certain degree.
Yes, yeah. Social networks is the same thing. They can be addictive. It's like, oh, who put a emoji on my Lego that I did?
Got to check it every 10 minutes.
I mean, I think that is the concern. I think all kids are different. Some are more susceptible to that than others. I mean, my concern would be that Lego are really the last thing that kids play with their hands before they move on to the phone. And building that kind of thing. It's been around for so long. It's so good for kids, whether they follow all the rules or they just build something based on their own imagination. It really is such a perfect toy, in my opinion, in all ways except for stepping on it in the middle of the night.
That's the only thing that's really downside.
That's
of
the
Lego,
only thing.
yeah.
So to me, if this is like you're playing less, you're building less, and on the Lego life world more, that would be unfortunate. But maybe it would inspire people to play more Lego.
Maybe this is a transition away from actual Legos into Minecraft. This is like the stepping stone.
Maybe
from real into virtual. I don't know. There we go. We navigated that without a hitch.
Sort of.
TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW and find us on Twitter. We're at TechNewsTodayTV.
We want to hear from you. Take our new audience survey. It should only take about 2 minutes to finish, and it'll help us get an idea of who you are, and then we can provide better programming, and we can help. It will help us pick better advertisers, people with products that you might be interested in. And we know that you take privacy very seriously. We will always protect that. We do not identify you in any way in the survey. So if you want to say something horrible about us, we will not track you down because we will not know who you are. So head over to twit.tv/survey now and find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. And as I've told you before, if you know someone who might want to subscribe to TNT, tell them about it, or just steal their phone and subscribe. You can do that too. I'm pretty sure it might be legal. I am at Megan Maroney on Twitter. Find me there.
We are not lawyers, so we cannot confirm or deny. I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to our technical director, Brian Burnett. Thanks to Kara, who's helping out in the studio today. Thanks to Kevin for editing the show. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.